because not only was I aching the loss of my dad, but I know I mentioned to you at lunch that my siblings and I started fighting. I got written off as the black sheep of the family after dad for his money. Oh. And none of that happened. I mean, in reality, there was none of that. And we were always relatively close, and I couldn't understand why people could become such monsters, myself included, because I'm always happy-go-lucky. And I had this anger and bitterness, and then I dropped down to deep depression. And then I just would want to talk and tell my story, and anybody who wanted to listen. I mean, I was all over the map. And this little light bulb went off like in my head that said, research grief. And so I ended up uncovering not only what people call the stages of grief, which there are actually a heck of a lot more, but there's over 40 reasons why people grieve. It's not just the loss of a loved one. You know, it could be a divorce or getting a life-threatening illness or empty nest syndrome. I mean, there's tons of things, losing a job. And I found out too that our chemistry changes when we grieve. You know, yes. I like to tell people that, you know, we're run by, like all these chemicals, neurotransmitters, you know, we got serotonin and dopamine, et cetera, and so forth. And when we grieve, these healthy things that are going through us really get depleted. And so we lose our memory, we feel guilt, we get angry, we have uncontrollable crying. And then was the aha moment when I realized, I read that our perception changes. Two people can look at the same exact thing and see completely different stories because they don't have a healthy brain that's perceiving the information. And that was my aha moment when I realized my siblings and I were fighting about things that didn't happen. Very real to them and their experience, but they weren't reality. Yeah. Unfortunately, people don't have this information about grief. And so they carry on. And so I ended up becoming the black sheep, so to speak. And it wasn't until I had that information and I decided to record an audio called How to Survive Grief. And I posted it on Facebook back in the day when I only had like 10 Facebook friends. It was a long time ago. And people started sharing it to people, told their two friends, et cetera, and so forth. And I started getting emails back from people that not only did it help them with their grief, but they understood the deep, dark place they were at. And it was as if I knew the thoughts in their head, they said. And I got a number of people who chose not to end their own lives because of my word.
Oh, what a trip. Isn't that a wonderful feeling?
Talk about a trip. Well, it was this feeling of responsibility. Who am I not to share this to the most amount of people? And then again, I knew the route. If I was willing to share why I believed in the afterlife, and I always knew that if someday I were to write a book, it was going to be called We Don't Die, because it's loud in your face, because people are like, yes, we do. Yes, we do. And in it is a chapter, which is more than my grief audio, because I expand upon it quite a bit. But chapter 10 is about how to survive grief. And with that, I tell you, everybody, even if you don't believe it, we have a team of beings in this unseen, invisible world around us that might not show you the whole path, but they're going to show you just what you need and give you each step of the way. And so as magic happens, I meet a publisher. His own father had died. I had the courage to pitch my story. He asked me to write a book proposal. I figured out how to do that. And next thing you know, he says, how fast can you have it written? And then I'd meet great people like George Norrie and Tom Danheiser from Coast to Coast AM. They had me on their show a couple of times. The book hit #1 on Amazon. And just more and more people started reading the book, getting the free information. And I mean, I'm grateful, but I still get these emails that the book changed my life. I have 2 podcasts now, as you mentioned. I've got We Don't Die Radio with now 384 episodes. And then Coast to Coast AM, along with iHeartRadio, asked me to do an afterlife podcast. And that's called Shades of the Afterlife. And we're now up to episode 93 of that. And I just keep giving. And I think, great if they send me a royalty check, great if they don't. I'm going to just keep on keeping on.
Sure. That's the whole point. The whole point is doing for other people.
And to make a difference.
The reason
and make a difference.
we all do what we do. Yes.
Correct. I don't want anybody else to go through what I did with my family. Grief hurts. Grief, I think, is the worst thing we're going to feel. I feel like the only way to the other side of it is we have to go through it. But if we learn how to navigate it, we get some tools that can help alleviate the pain, give us understanding. It makes a world of difference in our relationships, our mental health, and just how we feel.
And it's even more than that, because when everyone in the world understands that our lives really are eternal, everything is going to change. There'll never be another war. When everyone is living in an eternal frame, everything is going to change. I mean, you see it in individual people, how thinking eternally, they live their lives eternally. They stop thinking, life sucks, then you die. They start thinking, okay, when I help someone else, that deed doesn't end in a moment and go away forever. No, my life is eternal. It's going to matter eternally what I do today. It just is amazing watching people's lives change as they come to understand that their lives really are eternal. It's an amazing thing, Sandra, what you're doing. It isn't.
Yes.
This is not small. This is big and amazing what we're doing.
I take it one bite at a time, though, as I'm sure you do, because it can get overwhelming. So I remember speaking at a conference, and I must have had 60 or 80 people in line to get my autograph and sign my book. And I was overwhelmed because I thought, boy, if people could see me in my day job. And back then I was cooking for race car teams. So I was schlepping up around 100-pound cases of this and that and working really hard. And I thought, oh, these people don't know who I am. They think I'm this big superstar. And then I thought, no, you've made a difference with your words and you know how to be with people. And I think for anyone, there's a great song, Love the One You're With. If you have your sights on another person and you're genuinely in their world and you genuinely listen, you know the right thing to say. But that darn ego can creep in there and, convince us to be afraid, where people you look at in the grocery store or wherever you go, it's just another one of you. So not only are we eternal, but we are all connected. And every person you see has got the same doubts and worries and fears and all of that stuff going through them. So it doesn't take much to smile. It doesn't take much to give somebody a compliment. It doesn't take much to ask somebody how they are and really be there and listen to their answers. But I think we are eternal, but I do think we are all connected. So love can make a huge difference, even if you don't know a person.
Every single day I get emails every day, and every day I answer at least one out of those emails. Often it's more than one. And I think as I'm answering it that, okay, now I know why I was born. That one email is enough to let you know why I was born. To answer that one email.
Right.
That's how important that this work is.
Can I share with you my latest episode on Shades of the Afterlife?
Share it, please.
Well, first of all, a couple of things. One is when you and I had lunch a couple times ago, you were talking about your guide and how you can hear him. And I didn't really know too much about guides, but I've been doing some studies on it and really been paying attention. And I believe my guide speaks in my own voice right now. Uh-huh. And this month, in fact, our mutual friends, Carrie and Phil, I asked them if they could do a course on spirit guides. And that's actually going on as we are recording this today, Tuesdays in the month of August. Of course, it's recorded, so it'll always be available in the future. But as I was sitting and just kind of talking to my guides, I said, I'm going to clear my mind and you just let me know the next step. And the Shades of the Afterlife show is in 4 segments. There's commercial breaks in that show. And all of a sudden, it was like I downloaded this information of exactly what the 4 segments need to be. Now, normally, I prepare for my segments. I know what I'm going to speak about. I have notes. And for this one, I just closed my eyes and I spoke. And the journey, it's a meditation to help people connect with their loved ones. So it's a little taste of some different practices, like people who don't think they're a medium or don't think they're psychic. We know that our loved ones communicate through our imagination. So I do a bit of a meditation to have people really connect with that visual inside of themselves. Or if they're not visual, you can hear things or feel things. And then I give them a little taste of what's called sitting in the power, which is a spiritual practice to kind of recharge your batteries. Like we would never think of not plugging in our cell phones, right? No, we need to plug in ourselves. And there's a meditation practice that we can do to do that. So I give people a taste of that. And then what I do, and this is a visualization. Now, the skeptic will say, you just planted all these seeds in somebody's mind. How can that be real? Well, here's the thing. In the beginning, it could be 99% you and 1% the spirit world. The more we practice, the more they realize that we are open to being in conversation and that we're paying attention to these subtle thoughts and feelings and things that come into our imagination, and the more them it can be. So the next segment has people go to their favorite destination spot. Now, if you don't have one, you can make up that you're sitting by a river or in a park and a park bench, and there's room for 2. I'll put it to you that way. And I give people the opportunity to really experience where they are and give it a name. And for me, it's on a beach chair in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, because I can picture the sand between my toes and the waves and the birds and the air and everything. That's where it is for me. And then in the 4th segment, I pull it all together and get the person back in that spot. And then in that empty spot on the park bench or on another chair, you get to bring in your loved one. And you get to be there with your loved one. You get to look them right in the eye. You get to hug them, hold their hands. And then they give you a little tour of what they experience in the afterlife. And you get to see a crowd of your own family members in this group of people that are cheering you on in the afterlife. And they can be with us like, almost like putting on 3D glasses. They are part of our life and they are around, but we just can't feel them. But they get to give you a little taste of what their world is like before bringing you back into the room that you're in now. And it's such a feeling of wonder. I mean, I have done this a few times, even though I recorded it. And no one can convince me that I was not sitting with my dad, and my dad looking healthy and well, not as he did when he passed, because I could feel what it was like to hold his hand and to hug him. And I've had some listeners write me that have done this 6, 7 times, and they just feel so good. And it's something where you can learn how to do it and then do it on your own. You don't have to listen to the show every time, but you can just do it on your own. And what I talk about too, and I'm very funny about this, is I ask people to imagine that they've never heard the word exercise before. No one's ever told you about this thing you can do to feel better and be stronger and be more limber and live longer, all of these great things. And then they tell you about exercise. They tell you can stretch and weightlift and do walking and cardiovascular. The same thing's true with spiritual practices. Whatever is something you're interested in, we can tell you about it, but you take the ball, you run with it. Just my meditation might just be the tip of the iceberg to let you know that your loved ones are around, but explore more. If you're interested in electronic voice phenomena, go do it. If you're interested in taking pictures like Sonia Rinaldi does, go do it. If you're interested in psychic or mediumship, go do it. It's for us, just like exercise. We need to be the ones doing it. So anyways, that's episode 93 of Shades of the Afterlife. making a plug for it. Listen on your favorite podcast app. It's available worldwide, but it's episode 93.